Trump is officially back. He's once again the favorite to win the 2024 election. Momentum for Kamala Harris is starting to fizzle out, even as the Democratic National Convention begins today. Trump is on track to carry at least 270 electoral votes in this left-leaning forecast. Just look at what The Economist predicted in 2020. Joe Biden was supposed to win 356 electoral votes. In the end, he only won 306. And so in this video, we'll be taking a look at the 2024 electoral map based on The Economist's new state-by-state ratings. We'll begin by filling in the solid states. These are states that The Economist gives either candidate at least a 99% chance at winning. These are the traditionally solid Democratic and Republican states. For Kamala Harris, she is on track to win in Washington, California, Hawaii, as well as the 1st District of Maine, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland, and the District of Columbia, giving her just 137 electoral votes, with notable states being left out like Oregon, New Jersey, and Delaware. For Trump, however, he's going to easily win basically every single state he's won by a solid margin in the last 2 elections. We have Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North and South Dakota, the state of Nebraska as a whole, as well as its 3rd congressional district, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana. This gives the former president 112 electoral votes. Trump was doing very well right before Biden dropped out. However, even as Harris has entered the race, and despite all the momentum she is supposedly getting, Trump is once again the favorite. And this is according to a forecast that gave Joe Biden a 97% chance at winning the 2020 election. Yes, he did end up winning, but he won it by the narrowest of margins possible. It was 3 states decided by less than half a percentage point that ended up giving him a victory. Just 44,000 voters in 3 states were the reason why Biden ended up on top. There's no way he had a 97% chance at actually winning. So we're now going to get into the likely states for both candidates. These are states where either Harris or Trump have between an 85 to 99% chance at winning. And for Donald Trump, we're going to begin with the 2 most obvious ones, the states of South Carolina and Alaska. 2 states that Trump is probably going to win by at least 15 points this November. However, the forecast, of course, with its left-leaning bias, is going to place them into the likely column. We also have the 1st District of Nebraska. There's no doubt Trump is going to win, and just like in South Carolina and Alaska, he is going to win that district by 15 points, just like he will also do so in the 2nd District of Maine. There's no way Maine is going to be anything but solid for Trump. He's been performing really well in the polling there after first flipping the district in 2016. We also have the states of Iowa and Ohio, 2 states Trump has absolutely transformed in his 8 years in politics. Just look at these states in 2012. They voted for Obama by 3 and 6, while just 4 years later, Trump wins Ohio by 8 and Iowa by 9, where we basically saw 15-point shifts in both of these states just because Trump was on the ballot. In 2020, he did the same thing again. Joe Biden was actually supposed to win, according to the polling average in Ohio, but Trump still won by 8 points, and in Iowa, he won by nearly the same margin. These 2 states are now very much within the Republican categories. Just looking at the 2022 midterms, their governors Kim Reynolds in Iowa and Mike DeWine in Ohio were both elected by 20-point margins. So there's no doubt Trump is going to carry these 2 Midwestern states for a 3rd time in a row. Before we continue, only 12% of you guys are actually subscribed, so please take the time to subscribe right now for more content like this leading up to the election in November. And follow me on Twitter for daily political updates. Link in the description below. We're not done with the likely Trump states yet. We also have Texas and Florida, 2 states Trump won in both of the last 2 elections. In fact, in 2020, Joe Biden was supposed to win Florida by around 2 points according to the polling average, but in the end, Trump actually expanded off of his 2016 margin. Florida has been shifting to the right for over a decade now, and it is firmly within the Republican column today. The state re-elected its governor and one of its senators by 16 to 19-point margins in 2022, and Florida is no longer being mentioned as a swing state at all. I mean, just look back at 2012, Florida was the most competitive state in the entire election. In fact, it was the only tilt state on the map. But today, Florida is probably going to vote for Trump by a likely margin of at least 7 percentage points. Texas is also going to easily go to Donald Trump. He's going to win both of these states by 7 points, and he has nearly a 9 and 10 chance at winning in both. So a combined 70 electoral votes going to Donald Trump will put him over the 200 electoral vote barrier. We'll now be filling in the likely blue states for Kamala Harris, beginning with the most obvious one in Oregon. She's going to win the state. It's just going to be a little bit closer. Oregon can get competitive. In 2022, the governor's election was decided by a single-digit margin. Yes, Democrat Tina Kotek was elected governor of Oregon, but it was definitely a lot closer than elections in Oregon should be. We also have New Jersey and Joe Biden's home state of Delaware. Delaware simply isn't that liberal on the fundamental level. That's why it's going to be a little bit closer than its neighbors. While New Jersey, 14 electoral votes, the reason why New Jersey isn't solid is because of Bob Menendez and his multiple bribery convictions. He's still a sitting member of the Senate, but he will be resigning very soon. We also have the state of Illinois. Just again, fundamentally, it is not liberal enough for us to be able to say that it's confidently going to be in the solid blue category, especially as the state has been stagnant in the last 3 elections, voting for Obama, Clinton, and Biden by the exact same 17-point margin. We also have both Colorado and New Mexico. There's no doubt Harris is the favorite here, but Trump could make a surprising inroad in New Mexico. He could get it down to maybe a lean or even tilt margin, especially as Hispanic voters continue to move away from the Democratic Party. And the final likely state on this map is Minnesota. This is Governor Tim Walz's home state, Kamala Harris's running mate, and that's the main reason why Minnesota is being placed in the likely blue column. He is going to give her some sort of boost in Minnesota, a state she cannot win without. If Trump even comes close to winning Minnesota, the election is basically over. We can essentially call it for Donald Trump, because in 2016, Trump came within 2 points of carrying the state. Clinton almost lost a state that Democrats had won in every single election since 1972. Trump performs very well in the Midwest, and unfortunately for Harris, that is where the election matters most. States like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are going to be crucial. Trump has already totally flipped Iowa and Ohio, which were blue states during the Obama era, and in 2016, he won the 3 blue wall states, and they're called blue wall states because they voted for Democrats consistently for nearly 30 years before Trump's victories in 2016. We're now left with just a handful of states worth 113 electoral votes. These are going to be the lean and tilt states, with lean states being states where either candidate has between a 65 to 85% chance at winning. And so these states are going to be very, very close, but one candidate still maintains a very slight advantage. Having a 65 or even 70% chance at winning is honestly not that great. The other candidate still has a 1 in 3 chance at winning, and having a 1 in 3 chance is very, very significant. That's higher than the odds Trump had in both 2016 and 2020 to win the elections as a whole. And of course, Trump won in 2016 and was so close in 2020. And so beginning with the lean Harris states, we have the state of Maine. Its 2 electoral votes aren't typically talked about too much. It's a state that Biden won by nearly double digits in the last election, but today, Kamala Harris has just an 84 chance at securing victory. We also have the neighboring Granite state of New Hampshire. Kamala Harris has a 77% chance at winning here. New Hampshire is going to be competitive, especially considering the fact that Trump came within half a percentage point of flipping it 8 years ago. So New Hampshire is also going to fall into the lean Democratic column. We also have the 2nd district of Nebraska, where Harris is ever so slightly favored. And finally, we have the Commonwealth of Virginia, a state that is not as blue as it was 4 years ago when Joe Biden won it by 10 points. Today, Kamala Harris only has an 82% chance at winning. Yes, that's high, but Trump still has a 1 in 5 chance, and 1 in 5 odds really are not that low. And so Virginia is a state that probably could have gone to Trump if Joe Biden had stayed in the election. That is just how bad of a position Democrats were in. Now they're in a slightly better place, but still, Virginia is much closer than it was in the last election when Joe Biden had an over 90% chance at holding on to it. We have just 2 lean states for Trump, and they are going to both be found in the southeastern corner. We have North Carolina and Georgia. In North Carolina, Trump is going to hold on to it and win the Tar Heel state for a third time in a row. He has a 67% chance at winning, a state he carried by just 1% in the last election. Democrats have only won North Carolina once since 1976, and that was Barack Obama in 2008. But it's going to be quite a while before Democrats do it again, because yes, North Carolina has been shifting left over the past decade, but they really haven't been able to win any major statewide elections besides the governorship with Roy Cooper for a couple of years. North Carolina is going to remain in the Republican column for a little bit longer because of just how well Trump and the Republican Senate candidates have been doing in the state over the past few years. And so North Carolina is going to be lean Republican, and Georgia will be as well. This is a flip for Donald Trump. He lost Georgia by 0.24% in 2020, but he now has a 65% chance at winning it back. Georgia is a red state fundamentally. They re-elected Republican Governor Brian Kemp by 5 points in 2022, and in 2016, Trump won Georgia also by a 5-point margin. So the Peach State is going to be the final lean state on this map. And so with just 5 tilt states remaining, Trump leads with 251 electoral votes to Harris's 226. We'll begin with the 2 Sunbelt states, and so tilt states are going to be states where either candidate has less than a 65% chance at winning, so the odds will range from 50 to 65. These are going to be the closest states in the country, and they will be the states that end up deciding the outcome of this election. We'll begin with the silver state of Nevada. This is going to be another flip for Donald Trump. He has a 52% chance at winning, and Nevada is a state the Democrats have carried in every single election since 2008. Donald Trump has never won Nevada, but he is currently on track to flipping it. This is going to be a major victory for the GOP. Electorally, its 6 electoral votes are not too important, but if Trump can win Nevada, it shows he is in a very good spot to win the election. We also have Arizona, 11 electoral votes. This is a state that Trump actually lost in the last election. He lost it by a very narrow margin, and he is on track to flipping it back. Just looking at how close it was in 2020 and the fact that Biden was a much stronger candidate than Harris is today, and it's pretty obvious that Trump is going to win back this state. Arizona fundamentally is still Republican. Trump won it in 2016 by nearly 4 points. Yes, Democrats have had a good streak in recent years, winning both of its Senate seats as well as its governorship, but Arizona is still on track to go to Donald Trump, as Republicans still lead fundamentally. It's just Republicans haven't been putting up the best candidates with Martha McSally and Carrie Lake. And so looking at the odds for 2024, Trump has a 55% chance at putting Arizona back into his column. Finishing off the map in the Midwest now, Trump is just 2 electoral votes away, and this is why Kamala Harris has such a hard task when it comes to winning the election. She has to win every single blue wall state. These are states that Biden won by such narrow margins in 2020, and all 3 states were won by Trump in 2016. And so we'll begin with Wisconsin, where Kamala Harris has the slightest possible lead with just a 51% chance at winning. So Wisconsin is going to be tilt blue, although in the end, it is very likely that the GOP does flip Wisconsin, because Wisconsin, out of the 3 blue wall states, is fundamentally the most conservative. If Trump is going to win any of these 3 states first, it is probably going to be Wisconsin. And the one where Harris really is favored is probably Michigan, a state that Joe Biden won by 3 points. Michigan tends to be more liberal than its 2 neighbors, and according to the Economist forecast, Harris has a 58% chance at holding on to the Wolverine state. I mean, this really is a very important state for the vice president. If she loses Michigan, she has just a 9% chance at winning the election. I mean, even without Arizona, she has just a 28% chance. And the final state we're going to fill in is the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. People have been talking about it a lot. Pennsylvania is the key to victory for both candidates. Harris cannot win without Pennsylvania. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, he's basically guaranteed to win the election, because with Pennsylvania, he doesn't need either Nevada or Georgia and can still be at 270. That is just how important the state is going to be, just like it was in 2020. Pennsylvania was a state that got Joe Biden over that 270 electoral vote threshold. And today, Donald Trump is the favorite once again to win in the state. He has a 53% chance at winning, and without Pennsylvania, Harris's odds drop down to just 13%. So the state is going to be tilt Republican, with Trump slightly favored. And so this is the 2024 electoral map based on the Economist's new forecast. Trump has retaken the lead. He has surged back to being ahead. Momentum for Kamala Harris is starting to die down. Trump is on track to win 287 electoral votes. Kamala Harris at just 251. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this channel right now for more content like this leading up to the election in November, and join my Discord server, link in the description below.